This video is sponsored by Miniswap. Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Miles Memories Weekly, episode 244. Miles Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. How? Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, or rather last week, Games Workshop showed off something extremely exciting, hopefully something that's not just gonna end up in the pile of shame. But speaking of the pile of shame, are you ready to finally tackle your pile of shame? Or maybe adding to it? Well, today's sponsor, Miniswap, is a new storefront exclusively dedicated to buying and selling miniatures. Miniswap is the online marketplace you've been looking for to get rid of all your minis you don't need. With Miniswap, everything is bought and sold at a fair price so you can get the best bang for your buck. They've got a growing catalog of every Games Workshop miniature ever made and are working to expand into other miniature games as well. Looking to pick up that rare mini you can't find on store shelves? Well, look no further. All new this month, Miniswap has just added a brand new feature, lot listing. Tired of that army you shouldn't have bought sitting on the paint shelf collecting dust? Turn it into cash by putting the whole army up for sale at once. Head into your inventory, create a new item, add your first mini, then click add more to start creating lots. In no time at all, sell anything in your collection from single minis to whole armies. I'm very excited to see a site like this, built by dedicated hobbyists who know the what's what of buying and selling used miniatures. Y'all know I'm a big believer in taking secondhand minis and giving them a second or third coat of paint. This site is gearing up for Black Friday with all kinds of amazing deals and offers, so you don't want to miss out. So register today to get notified when all the minis you're looking for go on sale. Click the link in the description to make an account and get mini swapping today. Warhammer has been teasing for a couple of weeks now a new board game coming out, and their board games, I haven't really tried any of. Actually, I've tried some of their older board games. They have one called Lost Patrol from like 2017, which was a re-release, but it was a bunch of scouts versus a bunch of teen stealers. And that was actually really good. It was a very small in scope game, and that one was really, really fun. Most of the time when I've gotten into Games Workshop's board games, I haven't really gotten into them as much as just buy them for the miniatures. And this one, I mean, I'm definitely gonna be buying it for the miniatures, but also the game kind of looks really cool. Warhammer Quest Dark Water. This is absolutely chocked full of miniatures, and the thing that really caught my eye is the board, or kind of the lack thereof a board. It has a book that contains 18 maps. It says it's a lay flat book, and if the book actually does lay flat so that you can just turn the page and you've got a new board with beautiful artwork, I feel like that's a really interesting, really novel, get it because it's a book of boards, idea. And that just seems so cool. Like you just turn the page and you keep getting really, really cool game boards to play on. It looks like it's based on a hex map, which is really, really good for a more board gamey style of like adventuring. A lot of their games come with the old cardboard tiles, which is fine, but I feel like with the cardboard tiles, everything, unless you're gonna do Space Hulk, which Games Workshop, please re-release Space Hulk. It's the best thing ever. The cardboard tiles, they kind of lead to everything being pretty much the same. Like you get a board, you either get a big capture the flag, or you get a bunch of little mazes, and then it ends up being almost impossible for the controlling player to beat whatever, like the gene stealers or whatever evil is going on. Mazes are really, really hard to balance for, but 18 unique maps with lovely art, hex grids. Like, it's got 18, do you roll for it? Like, how do you, I'm sure that there is a campaign book that like takes you through all of the different missions, but that just is such a really, really cool idea. And it lets you, I feel like, have a lot more really, really interesting narrative going on. The setting of this game is the Jade Abbey, which apparently is some sort of a river that was once blessed by Alariel, which I really like Alariel because I like the Sylvaneth. I have a Sylvaneth army, and apparently it makes you immortal if you drink from the waters, but the people in charge of guarding it were effectively immortal, and then the up-and-comers, they never really got to, like, they never got their chance because the powers that be were immortal, and so then they turned to the god Nurgle, and things went downhill. But speaking of things, the miniatures for this game have got me really, really excited. It's got a whole gaggle of heroes, Eddie Valorian, classic knight, very classic knight. I know he's based on the old Warhammer Quest miniature, but he does look like ripped straight from the pages of the Cities of Sigmar. He's pretty good. Got his foot up on a little tactical rock, and he's got a lot of jewelry and embellishments. He's all right for your standard paladin. He's not bad. Then there's Bren, the Renegade Saint, just a knight in shining armor, and I do like the little lantern on the back. Then there's Inara of the Glamrock, and it is very, very Glamrock. She's got a classic little sword and a little pitcher of water that might be some of the Everwater that they're fighting over, and really, really nice volumes on the hair. I feel like all of these miniatures would be fun to paint. And then there's the guy that I really like, Drolf the Two-Axed. This little dwarf. It's fun to take a dwarf, and instead of giving him a hammer and just making him a classic dwarf, he's the rogue. He's got his two little hatchets and his short stature and a little robe pulled up over his head and his big beard. It's a medium-sized beard, but Games Workshop has been doing a bad job of putting beards on dwarves lately. The not quite chaos dwarves, some of them don't even have beards, and then the ones that do have beards, they have so many beads on their beards that it's hard to see the beard. I want a little bit of dwarf on my beard. I don't want a dwarf with a little beard. Continuing with the good guys, there's Kelthanor, the quadpod. This guy's little centaur, and he's really, really fun. He's got a nice bow and arrow. He's got a fun little feathered headdress, and he's probably a fair bit bigger than the other characters. He looks to be on, is that a 60mm oval? It might be. I guess the Games Workshop calls it a 32mm oval because it's 32mm wide if you measure it in the short direction. I don't quite get how Games Workshop does their ovals, but it is what it is. And this guy, his tail ends in kind of a wicked barb, which is kind of nasty, but he's a good guy. Then we got Drasher Vorn, the bear man, and he has a back scratcher. There's a literal back scratcher hanging from his belt, complete with the fingers. This guy, all day long, he's just giving himself some scratchies. I don't quite get the orange paint job on this guy. It's just kind of funny looking. And he's kind of funny looking, but there's something to him. There's definitely something to him. Again, medium beard. Then there's Jacobus Vine. He's clearly a part of the Sylvaneth, or not a part of the Sylvaneth, but a follower of the Sylvaneth, because he's all green and viney and he's got some familiars. I love his little owl with the pointy ears and a kind of nasty looking sickle as his weapon. Sickles in games they're usually not quite daggers, but not quite swords. In game, I'm sure he just has a standard attack profile, but I like to think that he gets to do 2 quick attacks, but it doesn't interrupt the enemy attack. That's what it would be in a video game. The humans are, they're fine. The humans, they're not gonna be as cool as the bad guys. They're never as cool as the bad guys, but with that said, I would enjoy painting up all of these guys. I think overall winner, I do like the dwarf. The dwarf is a lot of fun, but the one that's the most fun is definitely the centaur, because it's a centaur. That is the humans, but then there is an entire gaggle of enemies, and all of the enemies are Nurgle, and I really, really like the Nurgle, and I love the idea of, Alariel's perfect bubbling brook that can grant immortality, and so Nurgle wants to destroy it. The head honcho, Gelgus Pust, the Prince of Sores. This is the guy who wanted to be in charge of the stream, and he wasn't allowed to be, and so he just decided to burn the world. He is big, he is large, he is in charge, he's got some hooves, and a horrifying looking executioner's blade with a bunch of scary faces embedded in it. He's also got a flail and humongous horns and shoulder horns, and a little halo, a little halo of sticks. He also has a wicked grin. He's got a really, really creepy face, which I like. If I'm not getting a nice happy smile, I like a creepy face for my Nurgles. But speaking of Nurgles, then we got Belga Hufflepuff, the Crystal Witch, or the Cyst Witch. She is a giant maggot Really creepy that she's got 3 sets of arms, and the bottom pair of arms kind of look like fat baby arms, which is even spookier. And she's stirring a pot of honey. It's definitely not honey, but it looks like honey. It's painted in this really interesting golden way. It's very Winnie the Pooh inspired. I would love to see this character in Winnie the Pooh. That would be awesome. She is really, really gross, really creepy. I love the pale skin of the maggot body, and then her dark, like maroon or dark purple robes. And then she's got her Nurgle stick with a little skull stuck in with more honey. Very, very creepy. Then we got Mulgoth the Arm Swole. This guy is incredible. He's just that big meaty arm and a big ol' axe and a spooky kind of like no face look to his mask. I really like how Age of Sigmar does the plague faces. In my Death Guard army, I try to leave all of the helmets off to get a little bit more character in my Plague Marines, but there is something to the kind of faceless helmets of the Age of Sigmar Nurgle guys, and a really nice fly on his chest. In 40k, the fly is like super geometric and incredibly simple, but having it be a little bit more of a realistic fly, it adds a little something nice. And I wonder how he's able to move with an arm as big as he is. That is really, really spooky. And his arm has a little swirl that is the same swirl as you see on the hero. And so I guess their symbol is the swirl. Really, really interesting. And then Shaman Foulhoof. He is a Pestigore. He may be the Pesto himself. Just a classic, not quite a Zangor, not quite a Beastman. He's holding the heart of something and it's dripping onto a jade altar. I don't know, he's really, really spooky and really, really cool for just one of the bad guys. If you can play as the bad guys, or I wonder like, who's the computer? Like when you're playing this game, how are the enemies all just preset? Or does somebody actually take on the role of the bad guys? And speaking of the bad guys, the Cankerborn. These are big old plague bearers. Hopefully this is showing a little bit of plague bearers to come, because big old plague bearers would be really, really fun. And these guys do not disappoint. I like the humongous axe and the humongous executioner sword. The triple plague bearer head is really, really fun. They got rocks on their back, which is a wonderful opportunity to put on like more texture paste, and then you can put on whatever you want up there. And they got the little horns and the little, they have like little quills on their body, but it looks exactly like Kroot quills. And so it's just giving me flashbacks to putting together so many Kroot carnivores. I've put together 30 Kroot carnivores and I have 40 more to go. I have to put together a lot of Kroot. And these guys have a little bit of Kroot. It's just Games Workshop teasing me. These guys are really, really nasty and really, really fun. And speaking of nasty and fun, the Blight Templars, the new and improved like Nurgle champions. These guys, they've just, it's some subtle changes compared to the old models, but these guys are really, really cool. They're built like Baymax from Big Hero 6, and I love it. Their dainty little feet on their round bodies. It's just such a look. It's so cool. I would love to know how they achieved this paint job, where it goes from an incredibly dark, like saturated green all the way up to pure silver. And I'm assuming that at some point there'll be like a Warhammer article, or maybe on the box it'll say, these are the 600 Games Workshop paints that we use to paint these figures up with. But man, the paint job is just a step above. So many opportunities for good rust, so many opportunities for good gore. Their weapons are meaty and disgusting. I really, really like these guys. But the Blight Templars are kind of something that we've seen before. We've seen Blight Lords for Age of Sigmar. Now we got Pox Wretches, which are little zombie dudes. And they're very zombie dude, but they got a little something going on. They got these swirlies that we've seen all over the place on the bad guys, but then they also have like a Naruto headband pulled down over their eyes. And it's kind of funny that they're blind. Like maybe their eyes just fall out because of Nurgle, but then they don't end up needing those eyes. They've all got a nice little sword. They've all got nice fun stuff going on. The shields, the shields are very reminiscent of the Skaven shields, which take washes and contrast paint and speed paint really, really nicely. I could see these guys painting up really, really well. In terms of batch painting, thinking about my Kroot carnivores, my Kroots have kind of a simpler scheme going on, but it has taken me kind of a while to get through them. But for some reason, I feel like these guys would be easier to paint. Like, I think I could zenithal them with like a yucky color, and then maybe like my Skaven. I painted like my whole entire Skaven army, which is like half of a Skaven army, but I painted it in like 2 days. And I feel like this would also be like another fun 2-day challenge. I think it would come together really, really quick. And speaking of quick, you know what's super quick? EonsOfBattle.com, our website. Over there, you'll find all sorts of great hobby goodies. We got brushes, we got wet palettes, we got basing toppers and bits, we got dirted down, we got all sorts of fun stuff, and we have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any terrain piece we've ever made, or the new one. Our new terrain for November, the Crashed Landers. These spaceships have all the trappings of grimdark futuristic flyers who have met their untimely end, dropping out of the sky to live out their days as dramatic terrain. With weapons, engines, and armor, rivets, these corpses were carrying some precious cargo that never made it to its destination. These ill-fated vehicles were designed by us and are available at EonsOfBattle.com. Saving the absolute best for last, the Pestigores! I love the Pestigores, and it's so cool that a bunch of Pestigores show up in this box, and you can also just get Pestigores for Age of Sigmar, so that I can have the maximum number of Pestigores. I really like these guys. They're really fun. It's a really, really good take on Beastmen. Like, I like Beastmen. The last time I went to the Midwest Mini Swap, there was a guy selling a bunch of Beastmen, and I was very tempted. I bought a little bit of his Beastmen before, but the Beastmen army, number one, it barely exists. I can't remember. I think it barely exists for Age of Sigmar. It seems to be on its way out, and maybe one day it'll end up in Old World, and if it does, then maybe I would get into the Beastmen. But if I can have, in Age of Sigmar, if I can have a Maggotkin of Nurgle army of just Pestigores, I might do it. I really, really like these guys. I painted up the Beastmen, or like the Beast sci-fi men for Kill Team, and those guys were really, really fun. And these guys, they would just be so much fun to paint. I might even give oils another try. Oil painting is something that I keep tinkering around with, and it keeps not working out. But one day I'll achieve something that looks a little tiny bit like Marco Frassoni's amazing oil paint jobs. And these guys look like they'd be really, really fun to try that out on. Oh, the gores, the pesto gores. Rounding off the minis are the Mire Kelpies, which are just some spooky little fellas. I love a good horse skull and weird drippy, not quite a robe, but not quite living water. It is a really, really interesting look. And I'm sure that these guys, are they bad guys or are they just like objectives? Swarm all over the Jade Abbey, cursed spirits born from the corruption that runs deep into the land. So they are bad guys, but I wonder if these are like the absolute nothing bad guys. These are just like ghosts that you just kind of have to bat them away a little bit. And that's what you have to fight first before you get into some of the really, really nasty stuff. Warhammer Quest is looking really, really cool. It's been a couple of Warhammer reveal shows lately where everything has been cool, but I don't need it for one of my armies, or it's something like the Catan Shard of the Deceiver that they showed off, where it's like, that's really, really cool, and one day for sure, but like it's not something that I'm chomping at the bit. When is it going to be available for pre-order? This is a little bit. I'm chomping at the bit for this. This looks really, really cool. I love the book. The book, like the miniatures kind of sold me on I want those miniatures, but if I'm paying like an extra $100 for a game that I'm just not gonna play, but with the book, like that's such an interesting idea. And it's gonna make the game look so much better that the board isn't just tiles that are vaguely in the shape of, oh, you gotta go get the thing from the thing. Like the board can actually look like the battle going on right at this moment. That is a really, really cool idea and makes it so much more thematic. It's like people are gonna be taking Instagram photos with, they're gonna have that book kind of in an L shape so that they can use it as a backdrop, and the minis are gonna look amazing. this is a really, really cool thing. I would love to know, like, because it's been a hot minute since Games Workshop has done a game like this. And I wonder how they make the decision of like, okay, we've got Age of Sigmar, and we've got 40k, and we've got Old World, and we got Adeptus Titanicus, and we got all of this different stuff going on. But let's throw another game into the mix. That's what we need. I wonder how they make decisions like that. Is it always just like testing it out? Like we'll see what happens? Or do they just have to keep pumping out these games so that they don't have to bring back Space Hulk? Because obviously all they should be doing is bringing back Space Hulk. I have a copy of the 2016 Space Hulk. It's glorious, all painted up. It's awesome. But if there was a new Space Hulk, I'm 100% getting the new Space Hulk. Or just do something weird, like do a made to order for the Space Wolves and the Dark Angels, like expansions to Space Hulk. They only existed for a tiny, tiny amount of time, and they're really not very good in terms of expansions. You're meant to bring a couple other Terminators with some different weapons. I think you get like the Frostbark weapons and stuff, but other than that, it really doesn't add much to the game. But just put it out anyway and have it come with the Terminators. Like Space Hulk is probably the best board game that Games Workshop has ever made. It is criminal that there is a video game port of Space Hulk and you can't buy it right now. I don't think you can. I mean, it's a video game that was on the computer. You can get it, but it's not available to purchase anywhere. I have it on my computer, and every now and then I'll re-download it and play it, and it's just playing through all of the different missions of Space Hulk is so much fun. The only problem, the computer is a perfect port of the board game, which is almost a bad thing because the board game is so one-sided in the Tyranid's favor. But on the video game, they forgot to limit the Gene Stealers to a maximum of 24. So the entire map can be completely covered in Gene Stealers, and which means you lose. You automatically lose if that happens. So on the video game, you actually have to play a little bit more aggressively than on the tabletop, just because if you let too many rounds go by, too many Gene Stealers will spawn. And maybe that not working is why the video game is not available anymore, but it's still really, really fun. And the Warhammer board games, like there's something to them, and this one looks like it's gonna be a banger. Just completely basing that on how cool the minis are and how interesting the board is. It is going to be a real bummer if that book does not want to lay flat. That would be a problem. But you know what? Maybe you crack that spine a little bit. Maybe you just make it happen. Maybe you just put some books on it all day to help it just tamp it down. But there's something to it. It is really, really spicy. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of Warhammer Dark Water, very close to Dark Tide. Maybe they shouldn't have done that, but naming things is tricky, and they don't do the worst job I've ever seen. I gotta give to the Pestigores. I absolutely love Pestigores. I want more Pestigores. I want so many Pestigores. But right now, what I need to do is work on some Croots. Thanks for watching.